Hey everyone, welcome back to Crime Weekly News. I'm Derek Levasseur.
And I'm Stephanie Harlow.
And we're going to be covering a case that we've covered here on Crime Weekly before. It's the Delphi murders. We covered it once, or we did a series on it. We had family members of the victims on the show. Stephanie's going to get into all that detail. And then we did a Crime Weekly News on it when there was arrest. And we said we would do another Crime Weekly News on it when there was some type of resolution in the trial. And some of you have been hitting us up in the comments. They want us to do like a deep dive. There's not gonna be enough, because if you want, you can go back and watch. I believe it's a 3-part series, maybe 4, on the Delphi murders. We went with the Snapchat murders because of what was the use of communication at the time. Now everyone refers to it as the Delphi murders. That's what we will refer to it as going forward as well. So Delphi murders, we've done a deep dive on the initial stages of it. There were some developments as far as the arrest. We went into the pretty good detail about that, the ballistics and all that stuff. And now we're going to be covering the conclusion and the results of the trial, which I'm sure most of you already know. Quick thing about Gypsy Rose, we've gotten all your feedback from the series. It was a lengthy series, but I just want to say thank you for the comments and feedback. Not everyone agrees with Stephanie. Not everyone agrees with me. But it's been very cordial, and people have voiced their perspectives in a respectful way. And that's what it's all about. We're not all supposed to agree on everything. But I think overall, what was interesting is that there was a lot of you who came into the series with one opinion and left with another. And that's what it's all about, because we didn't present anything that was some secret piece of information that wasn't out there. What it shows us is that the narrative that was presented to most people in most platforms, most mediums, was one side. And so all we were trying to do was present that side and also the opposing side to give you the more well-rounded view of what took place and allow you to make your own opinions. Now, some of you heard the information and still feel the way you feel, but like we always say, the point of it is to be well-informed and to make an opinion after that. And at this point, I think anybody who followed that series, how could you not be? You've heard basically everything at this point. I know I feel like a Gypsy Rose expert now. So again, thank you for all the feedback. Thank you for supporting us and the show and joining in on a series where you may have heard about it before, but still took a shot on us to let us tell our side of it. And you got something out of it. Most of you did anyways.
I got a lot out of it.
Oh, I know you did. E-begging. That was the big takeaway from the series. 75% did not know what e-begging was.
Yeah, Derek said he put a poll on, because I thought it was like, and he's like, you should trademark that.
Well, you're tagging me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I reposted and put a poll.
Well, I'm going to say it with my chest. I'm not going to talk shit about you behind your back without tagging you. Listen. He's like, you should trademark that. I'm like, I didn't come up with it, man.
E-begging. New for me.
That's what they're doing.
No, so that was Gypsy. That's in the past. We're starting a new series this week. You'll be hearing this later this week. It's Karen
I'm really
Reed.
really excited.
Yep, it's going to be a good one. Stephanie's already been calling me about it, giving me disclaimers and kind of giving me heads up, but nothing about the story. But tonight we're going to talk about the Delphi murders. We're going to talk about Libby and Abby. We covered this, again, like I said a while ago. The incident happened in 2017, but we're going to recap it a little bit for anybody who's not up to speed on some of the highlight facts, and then we'll dive into where we are today.
Yeah, so in October of 2022, 52-year-old Richard Matthew Allen of Delphi, Indiana, was arrested for the 2017 murders of 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams. Now, Allen has lived in Delphi with his wife and daughter since at least 2006 in a home that's just about 5 minutes away from the scene of the murders, which is the Monon High Bridge. He was a trained pharmacy technician, and before his arrest, his name had never been mentioned publicly in the case that went unsolved for over 5 years. Now, Libby and Abby, if you remember, went missing on February 13th, 2017, after they had left for a hike over the Monon High Bridge, and sadly, their bodies were discovered the following day in a wooded area about half a mile off the trail. So a criminal affidavit in this case was made public in November, and it showed that Allen was finally tied to the murders through a bullet found at the crime scene very close to Abby and Libby's body. It was an unspent .40 caliber round, which documents allege came from Allen's Sig Sauer model P226. Now, this weapon was found during a search of Allen's home. Both he and his wife had admitted that he was the only person who had access to it. In an interview with police on October 13th, 2022, though, Allen claimed he had no idea how the bullet had gotten there, although he admitted in a 2017 police interview that he was on the Monon High Bridge trail that February 13th day when Abby and Libby were murdered. So Carroll County prosecutor Nick McClelland claimed in a hearing that Allen had confessed to the murders while behind bars more than once. We did talk about this a little bit. And Allen's own attorneys admitted that he had made, quote, incriminating statements implicating himself in the crime, end quote, but they insisted that the statements were vague and couldn't be trusted due to their client's mental state. Apparently, he had been in solitary confinement for a while. In court documents filed in September, Allen's attorneys claimed, this is a crazy thing, by the way, that I don't know if you're aware of this, Derek, but it seemed to come out of nowhere. These defense attorneys claimed that Richard Allen had nothing to do with it, that Abby and Libby had been killed as part of a ritualistic sacrifice carried out by members of a pagan Norse religion and a white nationalist group called Odinists. Have you heard this whole conspiracy theory thing yet?
I have, and unfortunately, and I don't recommend this to anyone, and I'm hoping you're not even familiar about this, but Abby and Libby's photos, crime scene photos, were leaked online. And unfortunately, literally on Twitter, I saw one of them. And
accidentally, I would assume you did not go looking for this yet.
Yeah, it was removed. And there were other people speaking out about it.
It's still out there, though. It's disgusting.
It's definitely out there. But I have heard about it. And I will say that once I saw the photo, there was something in the photo. I'll describe it for you so you don't have to go look without saying anything too specific. It's a crime scene. And I will say that there were some sticks and branches in positions on top of them. That was interesting. And I'll tell you, as I sit here right now, I can't completely explain it. I don't know if it was done intentionally, if it was. It seems like it's man-made. It seems like it was done intentionally, and it does appear to be some type of shape. Mm-hmm. But I can't tell you if it's correlated to anything more than just maybe an attempt to camouflage the crime scene. And I'm being very vague here, but
right.
That was my interpretation of it. But I see where that theory has been put out there
by his defense attorneys.
Yep, and it leaked somehow, and that's what they're saying, right? That's how.
I wonder who leaked them.
Well, yeah.
Maybe the same people that were making the claims to begin with who would have had access to those photos. It's crazy.
Well, it only affirmed, or in the minds of the people who believe that in this theory, it affirmed their theory, saying, "Look at these branches, look how they're placed," and then they actually had photos from this theory that would line up with that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Listen, we're going off the trial, but yes, I did hear the theory before. I have seen the photos. What I've said to you, if you haven't seen them, that's all you need to know.
Yeah. I completely 1,000,000% agree.
Yep.
Now, I do want to give you a little breakdown just for the, I'm not one to dismiss a conspiracy theory out of turn. You know that. So I looked into it a little bit, and according to the Indy Star, more than 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, Odin was believed to be one of the hundreds or even thousands of gods worshipped by Nordic people before the advent of Christianity. Now, Allen's attorneys say that evidence from the crime scene supports their theory. They say there were symbols fashioned with tree branches and painted using the blood of Libby. There were, sticks placed over the girls' bodies to form Germanic letters associated with Odinism, kind of like Derek just said. Allegedly, there was a letter painted on a tree in Libby's blood, fake antlers created with sticks and branches placed over Abby's head, as well as some of these branches reportedly being pre-cut with a power saw, which Allen's attorneys say suggest preparation and premeditation from this group of Odinists that are just running around Delphi. Now, in October, the judge in the case did not permit this evidence into trial. The judge basically was like, I don't really see where you're going with this, and I think it's just going to confuse and collude things further, so we are not going to go there. But Richard Allen's attorneys do claim that the police did investigate a possible link to Odinism in the investigation, but then they spoke to an expert in Odinism, and then they abandoned that theory. Once again, I don't know how you can really be an expert in something that happened 3,000 years ago. Before, I just think it's so, they don't even know how many gods the Norse people actually worshipped in general. There's so much that's not known. I'm not sure how you can be an expert in something that far back that doesn't have that much concrete evidence. But like I said, I'm all about a conspiracy theory as much as the next person. However, this case, because Derek and I do know some of the people involved who lost these.
We had Kelsey on the show.
Great people, great families.
Yeah, we had Kelsey on the show, Libby's sister, and she was great. She gave us a lot of the information she could give us. She gave us.
I can't imagine what they go through on a daily basis to not only have this happen to you, lose somebody this close to you, this young, but now to have this incredibly public investigation, this incredibly public trial, all of these crazy theories and the crime scene photos being leaked. Like, this is...
They've come after Kelsey a couple times.
They've come after them, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. The internet for somebody like the families of victims can be a blessing or a curse, and sometimes both at once. I just can't imagine. And I don't think that this, like, listen, I 100 million% believe that Richard Allen is the person responsible for this. Now, the police did say, and even the prosecutor said, they can't say for sure he did this alone, although he has, when he confessed 1 million times in prison, in jail, he said he did it alone. But they cannot say for sure that he did. But for his attorneys to say he wasn't there at all, and there was just some random group of Odinists running around fashioning antlers with like table saws, it's hard for me to swallow. And it's like this family's been through enough. So
yeah.
Oh, it's just awful.
Yeah, and I want to go more into not only the verdict, but why I also agree with it as well. But we'll get there. We'll probably cover that after the break.
All right. So last week, after 17 days of testimony and 19 hours of deliberation, a jury found Richard Allen guilty of 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of felony murder. So during the trial, we found out how the girls died. We did not know before. It was very much, kept private, which honestly it should have been. We didn't know how they died. We didn't know if they had been sexually assaulted or not. But now we found out, it's awful. Now we found out with the trial that both of their throats had been cut. Abby had a 1-inch deep, 3-inch long incision on her neck, and Libby had several incision wounds on the right side of her neck, the longest being 3.5 inches long. Initially, they were maybe throwing around a theory that a serrated blade had been used, but now they believe that a box cutter was used. Now, although Libby was naked, rape kits concluded there was no DNA evidence showing that either girl had been sexually assaulted. We also found out that in the spring of 2023, after Allen had been in jail for a little bit, his behavior became very strange. He started hitting his head on the wall. He would wash his face in the toilet. He refused to eat, and sometimes he would eat paper. He smeared his own feces on the wall. He smeared his own feces on his face. He began confessing to the murders, not only to his wife, which we have reported on previously, but also to a psychologist and several different corrections officers. So psychologist Monica Walla testified that during one of Allen's confessions, he told her he saw the girls on the trail. He followed them to the bridge. He ordered them to go down the hill. He intended to rape them, but then he saw something that spooked him. It was either a person or a van, and so he was startled. Allen claimed he then ordered Abby and Libby to cross the creek, which is when he slit their throats and covered them in branches to hide them, right? Allen's defense attorneys and a neuropsychologist who testified for the defense, claimed that Allen had not meant these confessions. He just lost touch with reality after spending 13 months in solitary confinement, and this can change the brain chemistry of a human. But Michael Clemens, a corrections officer, testified that Allen had told him, quote, "I, Richard Matthew Allen, killed Abby and Libby by myself. No one helped me," end quote. He was also known to shout at other inmates, telling them he wasn't crazy, he was only acting crazy. Another CO testified that Allen told him in April of 2023, quote, "I killed Abby and Libby. My wife wasn't involved. I want to confess," end quote. This CO, Michael Roberts, also said that a few days later, Allen told him, quote, "Can I talk? Can you listen? I killed Abby and Libby. How do I prove I'm insane?" End quote. Okay, so either Richard Allen, I believe he killed these 2 girls. 100 million% I believe it. So to say that somebody went crazy after being in solitary confinement, after what he did to these 2 girls, he was already not well, okay? This person already didn't have a firm grip on reality. He wasn't, all there or right in his head to begin with. So are we really seeing somebody that went crazy after being in solitary confinement, or are we seeing somebody that was already not right, who committed a crime that he knew he got caught for, confessed to his wife and a psychologist and corrections officers more than once, and then was like, hey, maybe I should start acting crazy so I can pretend I'm crazy when I go to trial for this crime that I don't want to take any accountability for? Because he did plead not guilty. I want to talk more about this, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that it's exactly what I wanted feeling. Uncommon Goods scours the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable things. Somehow they know exactly the perfect gift for every single person you know. Now, I know that Derek got something recently on Uncommon Goods that he's been raving about. I'm going to let him tell you about that in a second. But I want you to know that when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses, which is something that we here at Crime Weekly are very much in support of. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out this holiday season. From holiday host and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from book lovers to diehard sports fans, Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you'll find just anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. Derek, what have you got for us?
I was looking for something unique for me and Tenley to do. We wanted to build something. She's into the same things I am. I'm an absolute nerd. Stephanie knows this. I build like radios and stuff. And I found this kit on there, this marble run kit. So I bought it. I won't lie to you. They gave me a coupon code to get something and try it. But I bought one set. We liked it so much that we bought the other two pieces of the set to build it, and it's unique. It may not be for everyone. We've been building it over the last couple of weeks. We haven't even started the second or third kit, but it's something we're going to do through the holidays. So I have Uncommon Goods to thank for that, and you can check them out right now. We have a discount for you. You can get 15% off your next gift by going to uncommongoods.com/crimeweekly. That's Crime Weekly, all one word. That's uncommongoods.com/crimeweekly for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Ain't that the truth?
All right, Derek, we're back.
Yes, we are.
What do you think about this?
No, I'm pretty much on board with you. To recap, there's not video evidence of the murder, but I think overall the prosecution put together a pretty good case. You have the ballistics. We talked about it in the older Crime Weekly news. Yes,
which is, I think, the main evidence that sort of...
It was a big thing. It was the first thing that was kind of put out there, which was this cycled, I should say, 40 caliber round. And we talked about the ballistics of it, where if a bullet is inside a gun, even if it's not shot, when that bullet goes through the gun and is manually extracted, you've seen it in the movies. It'll kind of like, you'll see the round fly out into the air. There's an extractor claw that's on the side of the barrel, and it grabs the back of the bullet, it pulls it out, and then throws it behind you. And what happens is every gun is different, but there'll be what's called striations on the side of the gun. And I've seen it done a million times. It's fascinating. They can take that shell casing, usually brass, and they can put it under a microscope, and all those striations can be recreated if you have the gun that created them, to show a distinct pattern that's only created by that specific firearm. So what they did, as you said, they were able to find the gun, because I can tell you right now, without the gun, you can't do this. So that is the smoking gun. And so when they got that, they brought it into a lab and they put an unspent round in there. They racked it through and they created the same situation. And then they took the shell casing that they had extracted through the gun and compared it to the unspent round found at the crime scene. And what they found was a similar pattern. That's how they're able to connect that gun to that unspent round. It was right near the area where the girls were found. That's a problem. That's a problem, especially when it's not a hunting area.
Because when we first talked about this unspent round, you had a theory for why that bullet was ejected.
Oh, 1,000%. And it was the same reason that they went down the hill in such a level of compliance without running. We said it right out. More than likely, he had a gun.
Yes, he did. They believe he did.
And when he said, get down the hill, we can't see it but we can hear it. And more than likely at that point, he's pointing the gun at them. And to create a higher level of fear, maybe they start not complying. Maybe they start pushing back a little bit or asking questions or speaking loud. So to show them that he's not kidding around, he racks around. Hey, this is a real gun. There goes a bullet. And in the moment of everything going on, he forgets that that round's on the ground somewhere, or maybe he just couldn't find it. And so that would explain that. And that's not the only thing you have here, though. So that's the round.
Or he thought because he didn't shoot it, they wouldn't be able to compare striations. And
that'd be moronic, but yeah, I guess it's possible.
So a defense witness, Dr. Aaron Warren, actually had called this an apples to oranges comparison, right? So the bullet was initially compared by Melissa Oberg, who was the former Indiana State Police crime lab technician. She examined the unspent round found at the scene. She compared it to Allen's gun. So this expert, Warren, called it an apples to oranges comparison, saying Oberg compared the initial round, which had been cycled, not fired, to a bullet fired from Allen's gun. And Oberg said on the stand earlier that an ejector mark was an ejector mark regardless of whether a round was cycled or fired. But Warren disputed that testimony, saying the lab needed to identify tool marks under the same conditions in which the bullet was found.
Let me just stop you right there. Bullshit.
That's why I wanted you to hear
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's actually absurd for that defense to even be made. She is 100% right. An extractor mark is without a doubt an extractor mark. Now, should they have done it in the same way where I don't know why they wouldn't have. I don't know why they would fire a round. That doesn't make sense to me because it just gives them an opportunity to say, oh, it's not the same. But I'm here to tell you, and I always qualify by saying I'm not an expert in ballistics, but I have specialized training in ballistics. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, the extractor striations would not change whether the round was fired or not. And the fact that it was the same, not even under the same conditions, in my opinion, makes it even more of a fact that it belongs to his gun. So they could have just redone the examination under the same circumstances to dispute what she was saying, but this is someone grasping at straws. There's always this subjectivity with these experts. You talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time. That's absurd. And I don't come out and I'm not that strong about opinions often, but
this is a defense witness. I like to specify this.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. I promise you, it's bullshit. I own a lot of guns. You know this. I consider myself someone who is pretty well versed in firearms. That is not true. That is emphatically a lie.
They said, McClelland, the prosecutor, said the state proved that the unspent round found between the girls' bodies, not just near them, between them, cycled through Allen's gun. Testing was confirmed 3 times by the technician's boss. And keep in mind, remember, they pulled all the license plates of the cars that were around that area on that day. And that black Ford Focus, the 2016 black Ford Focus spotted near the trail that day, was the only one registered in the county. And it belonged to who? Richard Allen.
Yeah, so there's, what's my favorite phrase? Totality of circumstances. If it was just a bullet and nothing else, there could be an argument to say, yeah, I was out there, I was playing with my gun, I was racking it in the woods, and I left the round there. That round could have been there for years, right? Okay, let's just put that aside for a second. You just mentioned the registration, okay? Let's talk about some other things. He confessed nearly a dozen times.
Multiple times.
But let's put that aside for a second, too, because his mental condition, right? He may have just been saying that. And by the way, I don't believe that.
Quote, unquote, mental condition.
Yeah, let's talk about one of the specific confessions, which you already mentioned, Monica Walla. In that confession, you said it was a white van or a person. So I have it right here. During the whole confession, he says, yeah, listen, I was going to rape them, and then I got spooked by this white van that was driving into a private driveway, so I went across Deer Creek, and then I killed them there. Well, investigators went back. They found the white van. It was owned by a Bob Weber, and Bob Weber testified that right around the time, right after the girls would have been kidnapped, he pulled into that driveway.
He was driving his van home from work around the time of the murders.
So the question is this. How would Richard Allen know that information?
How did he know that?
Right. That, my friends, is called guilt knowledge. Only would be known to the killer. And then on top of that, if that's not enough for you, okay, and this is a little bit more of a gray area, but there's been multiple people, law enforcement officials, one of them being a state trooper, who said he's listened to over 700 calls from Richard Allen from the prison over to family and friends or whatever, and comparing what he has learned about the voice of Richard Allen and compared it to the voice of the guy saying, "Go down the hill." It's him. It is him. They can identify it. They hear the similarities. They hear the intonation. They hear the accent. It's him. That's a little bit more of a gray area for me. If we only had that, I think you could find a defense expert that would say it's not him. But to me, the strongest piece in this case is the guilt knowledge, and then a close second is the unspent round, which would only create those markings to one specific gun, which happened to be owned and in the possession of Richard Allen.
Richard Allen. It's like, come on, we're going to say that this guy was just in the wrong place, wrong time. Come on.
I will, just for the people out there, you know where we stand on it. Okay. And I'm very happy for Abby and Libby's family that they've gotten justice, because as we know, especially here on Crime Weekly, this doesn't always happen. We don't always get our guy. And this is one of those cases where it took longer than it should, but they got him, in our opinions. Now, I know when I posted an Instagram post about the verdict, everyone was very respectful, but I did get a lot of DMs. And a lot of you were saying that you've watched other YouTube channels or other documentaries, whatever it was. I didn't look too deep into it, where you're not convinced he's the guy. And some of you were even more forward than that. But here's what I'll say. You're entitled to your opinion. We're entitled to ours. I think they got the right guy. Stephanie thinks they got the right guy.
He's the freaking guy.
He's going to have the opportunity to appeal.
Now, once again, maybe there's somebody else involved. That even the police, even the prosecution said there could be, right? There could be. But he definitely was there. I don't care if there's somebody else involved. That's going to be up for him to talk about or them to figure out. He was there.
Think about this. Unless this other person came in from the other side, we have video and photos. There's nobody around him. It's him on the bridge. There's one way in, one way out. And there is a back way. We talked about it, where it's like a graveyard. You can go
move through the woods, man. I don't know what to tell you.
So
they move through the leaves. They fly on the wind. Come on, man.
I think it's the guy. We've had stronger cases against people. We've also had much weaker cases where the person was also convicted. So I feel like this is probably on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7, maybe a weak 8, as far as the evidence against him. I think it's pretty overwhelming, and I think some of the evidence against him is pretty specific. It's not just, witnesses or whatever. It's you have actual forensic evidence that can tie him to the scene. And I don't want to say for certain, but I thought I saw somewhere in one of the articles where he even went as far as during one of his confessions saying, "I covered them with branches."
He did. Yes, he said it to Monica Walla, the psychologist.
Something that would only be known to the killer. That would only be known to the killer.
Are we going to say that he maybe made some designs with, you murdered 2 people. You can't be like, why would he make design? Well, why would he kill them when his plan was to rape them and then he got spooked, but he killed them anyways?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
This person doesn't use logic. We don't know what's going on with him, okay? But he's not a normal-minded person, because this is what you decided to do to begin with. So, I can't tell you what the hell he did with branches or why he made designs, if that's the case. But I don't need to, okay? I don't think that a secret society of white nationalist Odinists were traipsing through the woods with antlers that they pre-cut on their table saw to ritually sacrifice 2 little girls.
If Stephanie doesn't think that, you're in trouble.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
She's the head of the conspiracy theorist.
I'm the president of the conspiracy theory gang.
Yeah. So if she's not buying it, it's not good. But no, I think overall, and this also shows us that not every case is going to have DNA. You didn't really have it here. There was a strand of hair that was in question. It didn't come back. I believe it came back to Libby or Abby. It didn't turn out to be anyone.
I believe it was Kelsey's, actually.
That's right. It was Kelsey's. I apologize. So,
which makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
They lived in the same house. Yeah. Okay.
And we had known some facts about the case that Kelsey had disclosed to us off record that they weren't important to the story. And it lined up with what we were thinking. And overall, my takeaway is that and I say the word happy, I'm relieved for Kelsey and her family. We've had the chance to meet the rest of Libby's family at CrimeCon a few different occasions. And, you know, I think I even interviewed them at one point.
Yeah, these are great people.
They're great people.
They didn't deserve this.
Nope.
Nobody involved with this deserved this. I hope he rots in prison for the rest of his life. I hope he never sees the light of day. Well, he hasn't been sentenced yet, but
nope. Well,
I think he's facing over 100 years.
Yeah, he's gonna appeal. He's gonna appeal. But I'm thinking about
I hope they have something better than the Odinists when he appeals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they're gonna have to go after the evidence. That's all you can do.
They better produce these Odinists for their appeal. They're gonna have to start naming names. Okay.
Thinking of them, thinking of the family, and the silver lining that we as a community can take from this is that although it can take time, there is justice out there. You just have to be determined, disciplined, and focused on the task at hand. It seems like Richard Allen was initially identified as a witness. He was spoken to, and you know, I've heard a lot of criticisms about this case, probably justifiably so. But I'm glad to see that despite those mistakes in the beginning, they were able to find the guy and they got justice, because this was one of those cases with the photo and the video. It was just so difficult to believe that in today's society, nobody knew who this guy was. And every time I think about this case and how it's concluded, I think back to the photo of Richard Allen, his smug look with the description of the image.
Oh, the actual picture hanging on the wall at the restaurant they were at. He was like having dinner with his wife, and there's a picture of him. They took like a selfie, and there's the picture of Bridge Guy behind him, and it looks just like him. But you know, it was the Odinists. The Odinists used the old Norse magic to change their appearance and dress like, you know, they were about to go to a construction site. I thought they wore robes and...
There's nothing to support it. The only thing I saw was the tree branches. Everything else points to Richard Allen. You're going to have some doubt in every case. The question is it proof beyond a reasonable doubt? And I think here it was. So if there's any updates, if there's any major impact in the case or something changes, we'll obviously let you know here. But overall, I think at this point, now that the families have gotten some answers and have gotten some justice, it's important to just let them start the healing process, if that's even possible, and move on with their lives, because now they're not only living for themselves, they're also living for Abby and Libby. And I hope that they find some solace in the fact that the person responsible for all this pain, he's going to die in prison. And that's the best you can hope for in this situation. Any final words from you?
No, that's it.
Okay. We're out of here. As always, we appreciate you guys being here. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about this case. I know there's going to be some dissenters in the comments. Give your reasons why. We want to hear them. So we will be back later this week with the Karen Reed series part 1. Everyone stay safe out there. We'll see you soon.